Blessings, guys. Blessings, blessings. I'm not real sure why the video was not clear. There was no indication that something was going on with the internet, but I wanted to come back on. And I know it's not going to be the same in regards to the first release because I just released as the Spirit of the Lord has given it to me. I do want to welcome you back to the station or to the channel. Thank you for coming back, liking, sharing, and subscribing. And thank you to the YouTubers on my Facebook page. Thank you for joining in as well. And so I was coming on just to address um, responses that were taking place in the back channel. Daughters of God are responding. And so they are also asking questions. And so one question was being asked, and I asked the Lord if I needed to address that. And he said that you could jump on and just kind of share it with the daughters. And so I titled this that we must choose wisely. That the one person was asking the question if they could marry someone outside of their faith. And so when we're marrying someone outside of our faith, you've got to be ready for the consequences of that, right? Because you're not in agreement. And so the scripture that he brought to my heart was in Amos 3:3. Can two walk together unless they are agreed? If you're not in agreement, whether it's a partnership, whether it's a marriage, whether it's friendship, there's going to be lots of difficulties in that. So how you start a thing is really how you're really going to end a thing. So if you start it wrong, you're going to end it wrong, right? And so you want to be wise in regards to your choice. And that's what God is saying. I want to always direct you right back to God, go back to God, inquire of God, ask of God. Make sure that you have wise counsel. If you're in a relationship right now and he's proposing, that's a good time to really have that person to meet your pastor, your spiritual leader, right? It's a good time that you would introduce that person to them because you're covering, which is your pastor. Your pastor is covering you. He's watching out for your soul, and so he's going to, or she is going to, inquire of the Lord concerning the person that you're engaged to, the person that you are dating. This is why it's important to have wise counsel. It's important that in the multitude of counsel, there's safety. And so you want to make sure that there's counseling taking place. If you're looking, if you're getting ready to, be engaged and even the potential husband to be, right? That potential person, there's going to come a time when you have to introduce that person to your spiritual leader because they're watching over your soul. And then I believe that your spiritual leader will tell you that you're needing counseling and that you want to go into a place of counseling. Why? Because there are blind spots that we have, all of us. Men have blind spots, women have blind spots, and women, because we're so emotional, we're emotional beings. And so there could be red flags in that because we're so emotional and we're so enamored with the person that we'll overlook the red flags. And this is why one must choose wisely and one must have counsel. And so, but if you're not in agreement, for example, he's coming from his culture is different. The God that he serves is different from the God that you serve. You're looking for trouble. You're looking to butt heads because the order of God is that man is over woman and Christ is over man and man is over woman and so God has an order there, right? And so you would come under the order of that man when you marry him, right? And if he doesn't believe in the same God that you believe in, and you guys are not serving the same God, then you're looking it is just going to be a mess. You may submit to that. Um, um, and you may submit in the beginning, but as you go on, you may find out that, why did I submit to something that is not even in alignment with how God had wired you, how God, the God that you serve, right? And so when you're looking to marry a different culture, you're also looking at the gods that that culture might even serve. You gotta be careful in regards to that. And I'm not saying that you're not to marry a different culture. I believe that you need to be wise in regards to the culture that you're about to enter into in regards to holy matrimony, because there are certain customs that cultures will engage in. And so, if that's not in agreement with how you were raised or the God that you're serving, are you serving the true and the living God? Because there's many gods, guys. I think that we should know that there are many gods, but there's only one true and living God. And so you've got to know who you are in Christ. You've got to know that you are a daughter of Christ. You got to know God's purpose for your life. You need to, before entering into marriage, you need to know those things, because God has a plan for you. He has a purpose for you. He says, his thoughts in which he thinks are good and not evil, with the hope and an expected end. And so God has a plan for your life. And if you go into a relationship where you guys are not in agreement, then you're going to look for, expect trouble. That's all. Expect hardship, expect a struggle, because there's a struggle against who you serve and who he serves, right? That'll be a struggle. And so this is why God says you must choose wisely. So I'm going to just digest a little bit and just kind of talk about the marriage that I was in. I was in it for 23 years. The man that I was married, when we got married, we were not serving the Lord. But my upbringing, the way that my dad raised me, was that I was a participant in church. I knew of the true and the living God, although I was not serving him. So 10 years into the marriage, God gets a hold of me and I get saved, right? I get to come into salvation and begin to walk with the Lord. And so in this new beginning of me walking with the Lord and trusting him that he has a plan for my life, it began to put a division within the relationship. And the division was, I'm serving now the true and the living God, and he's not. And he's not understanding. He's not understanding the things of God. He's not understanding God's ways. He's not understanding that. Now, let me tell you that I did neglect my responsibility as a wife unto him. But God was teaching me what was required from me in regards to my relationship with God, right? And so, and God requires us to live holy. That God does require us, because he's holy. And so there are things that I began to take off, because they were not of Christ. And as I was taking these things off, these were things that I used to do that now I don't do any longer, right? And so that was a division in the marriage, right? Because he was still doing the things that we were doing prior to me coming into Christ. And so, and that's what you can expect, this division now that will come into the marriage, because you're not in agreement. You're not walking together in agreement. And we were not walking together in agreement. There were things that I began to learn that I came out of agreement with, right? I learned things about God, and then I came out of agreement with the world. So that's who I came out of agreement with, was the world. And so a big thing, let me just say, a big thing in the family was Halloween. Once I learned really what Halloween was all about, I mean, I'm talking about the history behind Halloween, that created a division within our family. And so, yes, at one time I was taking my children to the trick or treating and all of that, or we had the schools that they were involved in the carnivals that were at the school and things like that. But once I came into Christ and I began to understand the meaning behind Halloween, I came out of agreement with it. Right. And so, but my husband at the time didn't. And so there was the division. There was a division there. And so he's pulling the kids one way, and I'm trying to pull the kids another way, right? And so this is what I'm talking about when you enter in something that you guys are not in agreement with. And although when we entered into marriage, we were on the same page, but God got a hold of me. And so, and we don't know, if that other person is ever going to receive God. And if they never receive God, are they willing to walk with you in agreement, right? Are they willing to walk with you in agreement? And so with my situation, he was not willing to walk with me in agreement. I'm going to live for Christ. There's no ands, if and buts about that. And it didn't take away from me being the wife. Matter of fact, it was enhancing in regards to me being the wife that God has called me to be. And so, if you enter into this holy matrimony wrong, it's going to end wrong. There's, it's not going to end right. And so that's why you must choose wisely. It's important that we do that, guys. And so I jumped on wanting to release that to you because of the question that was asked in the back channel of my page. And I asked God if I was to address it, and He gave the okay to address it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm addressing that question. If you marry outside of your religion, if you marry outside of He serves this one God, and then you serve the true and the living God, then there is going to be a conflict there. There will be a conflict. And so it's important that you go to your leader. You want to get wise counsel. You don't want to be without counsel because you don't want to make a decision that's going to affect, the rest of your life. And yeah, and sometimes those decisions can be brutal. They can end in divorce, and we don't want to get married just to turn around and get divorced. So we don't want to do that either. So daughters of God, I just want you to make sure that you choose wisely. Make sure you go back to God. Continue to ask God, is this the right person for me? Is this the one that you have sent? I know that emotionally we get so attached emotionally that sometimes we can't even hear God when God is trying to show us. But believe that God will send someone to let you know. Believe that if you have counsel with your leader, that they will direct and steer you in the right direction. Because to enter into holy matrimony is not something that we would play with. It's a sacred covenant that God has made for us as man and woman, right? So it's sacred. It's not something to play with, and it's a big ticket. When you think about big tickets, purchasing a house is a big ticket. Getting married, that's a big ticket. That's a big decision, in other words, that one is making. And so you don't want to make that decision without having counsel in making the decision, right? And the decision is yours, and the choice is yours. And no one can take that away from you. But counsel will show you some things that you maybe hadn't considered, or things that were blind to you, and that you must take into account before making your decision, because God has given us all the will to choose. And so we choose daily, right? We're choosing daily. I'm choosing daily to follow the way of God. I hope that you are as well. But this is, He gave us a will. And we're the only ones, we're the only human beings on earth that has been given a will. And so that means we have a choice. And so I choose to um, um, follow the ways of the Lord, and to get the wise counsel that is needed and necessary. So when I see certain questions and the Lord gives me the okay to jump on and to address it, I'm going to go ahead and address that. And I believe that the person will know who I am speaking to, because it was speaking about another culture, marrying someone outside of their culture, and but they're not serving the same God. And so that's what I'm addressing. You want to make sure that you are walking together in agreement. All right, so guys, I'm gonna end there. Blessings to you. I'll say shalom for now, and hope to speak with you guys again shortly. Shalom.